Well, good morning, good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Einhaus. I'm the senior minister in this amazing community, and I am so excited to be here today, what feels like a very international day. We had a lot of references from different faith traditions, different parts of the world, and I love that because it works perfectly with my talk today, with my message. So I am very, very excited to be here. And our conversation today is really about exactly what we have already been talking about. One in the one. And so it is, I called it the net of influence. And often I have this visual that there is a beautiful net of golden light that is everywhere, that blankets not just our world, but the entire universe. And it is this invitation for each one of us to connect to it. It is always there. It is always available. No matter how messy it looks out there in the physical, it is always, always available. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. A couple of different ways of how to think about that net, because you might have a different image. That happens to be my image. You might have a different image. You might experience it as a vibration. You might feel it, you might see a color, a different color than yellow to blanket everything. And that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. It is this blanket or this net that we are invited to, and I believe at the very center of our being calls for to connect to. I think that is what's happening here. We are plugged here on this planet with some interesting ways of being and rules and all of those things. And our eternal being is trying to figure out how to navigate this, while at the whole time it is looking for that opening to connect to that blanket in a deeper way. And so we find places like the New Vision Center. We find places where we feel that there's an opening for us individually to connect in a deeper way. Many of you know I found New Vision Center 15 years ago, and at the beginning, when I was so baffled and amazed by the feeling of connection that I had here, just when I entered the campus, when we were over in Hayden, it didn't matter. But the moment I stepped in, I felt that connection. And I would often say, I wish somebody would blindfold me and put myself into different centers for spiritual living even, and I bet I would feel when I'm at New Vision Center. And a couple days ago, I had a little happy hour with beloved Reverend Bev, who is in town from Hawaii. And we talked about that. We talked about this sense of connecting and how it feels when we find our place, our family, our relationships, our tribe, our community, our place. And what came up for us is a very simple way of doing it, and I'm going to invite everyone online here in the sanctuary to do it with me. I invite you to take your non-dominant hand, so the hand that doesn't rise up when you write something down, and open it up. And then take your dominant hand and put it like that. And then connect like that and have the non-dominant hand. Can you feel that? That is how connecting can feel, and we can do that for ourselves. Now, I love that we have a couple of different expressions already that are international, and I wanted to bring in a couple more. Because I want us to look at this net from different ways. In Africa, there's a term, it's called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu means I exist because you exist. This idea that without the interconnectedness all around us, we couldn't be. And in modern times, we have gotten a little far away from the fire, right? In the olden days, there was a fire, the whole community would gather, and you would know you are one with that community. You would be connected to the entire net. It was very clear. And yet we have moved far away. But Nelson Mandela talks about Ubuntu in this way. He says, a traveler through a country would stop at a village and he didn't have to ask for food or shelter. Once he stopped, the people would give him food and entertain him. That is one aspect of Ubuntu, but it will have many other aspects. Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves. So the question, therefore, is, are you going to do so, enriching yourself? Are you going to do so in order to enable the community around you to be able to improve also? So Ubuntu is really this call to uplift not only ourselves, but everyone around us. So I invite you to take a moment and connect with what is your primary community. It might be your family, it might be a group of friends, it might be a community, it might be a spiritual community, it might even be the New Vision Center. Just connect with what is that community where I want to really to balance becoming all that I can be and at the same time uplift that community, my community. Did you connect with a place that you want to apply this to? Yes, I see lots of nods, so that's wonderful. In the Native American tradition, there's the Blackfoot tribe. And the Blackfoot tribe does not greet each other by saying, "How are you?" in their native tongue, of course. But they say, "How are your relations?" How are your relations? And that points exactly to what we're talking about, right? It points to, I can only be as uplifted as I am connected to on the vertical, on the horizontal, and on the vertical. And it is important for us to remember that here, in these modern times, that makes us believe that it could be a different way, right? This focus on individualism that we have going on here. It makes us believe that we could do it alone. That's why I love that reading that Ralph brought to us today. When we see a cup of coffee, to see everything that it took for that cup of coffee to land in my hand. And so, Black Elk says it this way: we regard all created beings as sacred and important, for everything has a wushangi, or influence, through which we may gain a little more understanding if we are attentive. There's the qualifier. There's always a qualifier. You know, there's always a qualifier. There's always the thing that calls us to do something to get it. Because everything requires us to step into it. It is available. In the Christian tradition, it says, it is done unto you as you believe, right? It's the same thing here. It is available if we are attentive to it. And so my first point really is to notice. We have to notice this net, this energy, this something. We have to give it our undivided attention. And we are not used to doing that, right? We value people who are doing this and that and, taking care of a kiddo and having a full-time job and being amazingly dressed and having perfect makeup. Whatever, that whole thing. Exhausting. So, and even right now, this moment, I invite you to check in with yourself and see if you are giving your 100% undivided attention to this now moment. Or if there is something tugging at you. Having some judgment coming up, or something that needs to take place later is like, I need to do this. And just notice for yourself. It is not surprising that we are challenged being fully present. Because the world has sped up. And the world is presenting itself with so many mesmerizing things that pull at our attention. And you know what? It has always been that way, and I'm thinking it will always be that way. This physical realm, this world of effects, will always be mesmerizing. And so it is really up to us to find ways to devote ourselves to connect to that net. Joseph Campbell, the American writer in the 1970s, which is 50 years ago. Can you believe that? And I did the math. I was like, oops, wow, that was a long time ago. He said this: I have read somewhere an old Chinese course. May you be born in an interesting time. This is a very interesting time, he says, in the 1970s. There are no models for anything that is going on. It is a period of free fall into the future, and each has to make his or her own way. Doesn't that feel like right now we are in one of those times? A couple of weeks ago, Reverend Michelle Madrano was here, and we had a conversation about how ministry is so very, very different now than when she started 30 years ago. She said, it seems like nothing that used to work is working. And we are all called to find new ways to minister to one another and to create a place for people to feel that connection more easily. The connection to the one. Because the world is getting louder and louder. And so here we are. The old models are falling away. Clearly, we notice they are not working anymore. We see it everywhere we look. And yet, the new ones haven't shown up. They haven't shown up yet. I wonder if this is how trees feel in the fall. when they are letting go of the leaves? Do they know that there will be a spring? I don't know. But I think we can learn from it. We can learn that even when things fall away, that there is, in this rhythm of life, a new beginning. That's really what last week's conversation about becoming and being was about, right? Becoming the time in our life, the circle we go through over and over, where we add something to it, where we're becoming aware of something more, where we are rising up, where we are expanding. And just as we breathe in and we have to breathe out, then the opposite of becoming is being. And being is the place where everything that is not essential literally falls away. It has to. It has to make space for the new. And I believe that a successful life, for sure a harmonious life, is one that is in alignment with that rhythm, right? Just as we can be in alignment with our breathing. Let's breathe in and out. This activity that our body does naturally. If we would fight it, and when we breathe in, if we wanted to exhale, there would be chaos. It won't work. And that is the same with becoming, saying yes to whatever wants to open us up and grow us and expand us and bless us, and saying yes to being, to let go. This is no longer serving me. I let it go. So I think we established the realization that there is this net of goodness, there is this oneness, and also the call for compassion in this world that we live in that throws so much at us. And so my third point is then really something that we have been really discussing in our self-mastery class that is coming to an end this next Tuesday. And in the class, we have talked a lot about the creative process, this idea that the net, the unconditional love, peace, harmony, pure joy, grace, all the goodness of life is in the very high, in the top realm of our teaching symbol, right? All the way up there. And it's the creative process is really for us to connect to it and to bring it forth into our life as a manifestation, as the good that we are experiencing. And the conversation that we are having is that is not a one-way street. It is not only coming from the goodness of beingness through us into our life, but whatever we are experiencing, we are offering back up into the collective consciousness. And so it's a two-way street. And so whenever we devote ourselves to knowing something deeper, perhaps through daily devoted spiritual practice, maybe one way of doing it, right? Whenever we know something deeper, not only does our own life become more harmonious, more connected, more one in the one, it blesses the collective. We're not just doing it for ourselves, we are doing it for the world, literally, for the well-being of everyone. And so our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says it this way: all things, ourselves included, are some manifestation of it. Capital I, which means the one, right? The one that is all connecting us. Hence, all things have a direct relationship to it. And since all things emerge from it and are sustained by it, and since it is all things, this relationship is direct and immediately. And so wherever we find ourselves, even this now moment, we can feel it. We can maybe close our eyes or soften our gaze and just become aware that right where I am, the divine is. That I am connected, that I am covered by that infinite blanket of good. And if we find ourselves in a moment where we don't feel that connection, where we question the connection, I urge us to find someone who is connected right now, that we can sit with, that we can talk with, that we can just be in their vibration. Find music that reminds you of the one, so that you get to the place where you know that there is one power and one presence, and I am of it. And so, what is our invitation for this week? What are we called to do with all of this? My hope is that the awareness that you have of being one in the one has been uplifted. That you felt, oh, I can plug in. I can feel it. Perhaps do that before any meeting, any conversation. Anytime you sit down to plan something, connect within. Be gentle and kind with yourself, and understand that the work that you're doing benefits the world. And so our invitation of how to walk this out this week comes from beloved Mark Nepo. He says, "We simply need to devote ourselves to being students of truth and beauty, letting love stitch them into a rope we can climb, or a blanket that can keep us warm." It is love. I love that the vision statement of New Vision Center is revealing the power of love, because that is the quality that I and so many people connect with. And that is the quality that we can plug in. And what's amazing, we can do that if we are here in the sanctuary, if we're joining online, or if we are far away. Right now, in this moment, I know that there is a certain amount of people in the sanctuary and a certain amount of people who are watching it live on their computers or devices. And there is an infinite more number of beloveds who are somehow connected to the New Vision Center, who are plugging in right now. And we don't even hear about it until they call and tell us. Until they call and say, "I had a really challenging time, and I knew you would be there, so I plugged in." Beloveds, that is why we are doing this work. That is why we are stitching love into ropes, into blankets, into anything we can. That is why we are together on this journey to uplift not only ourselves, but the world at large. And for that, I am very grateful. Thank you. And so now we are going to do that, what we do so well here as Centers for Spiritual Living. We are going to pray together. And I'm going to invite the practitioner students, and all of the students in the self-mastery class to please rise. And we do this so we can let our own consciousness know, I'm in business. I'm stepping in. This is what I believe. And so there's a power for good in the universe. It is love, it is peace, it is harmony, it is joy, it is wholeness. It is everywhere present. And allowing myself to feel that loving kindness, that warmth, that connection to the divine. I know that I am of it, that my entire being has its being in it, and it has its being in me. And as I know this is the truth of myself, I know this is the truth of every beloved everywhere. For we are only one. And so it is from this place that I speak my word. That I uplift and bless everyone around me, everyone who is going through a time where they're realizing that old forms are falling away and the new forms have not quite appeared yet. Everyone who is on their spiritual journey to discover their opening to the divine, their access, so that they may plug in to that powerful blanket of love, of peace, of harmony, of wholeness. And how grateful I am, how very, very grateful to know that this is the truth of life, that life at all times says, yes, my beloved, yes, I am here. I am waiting for you. You are welcome here. And so I just place this word into universal law, the law that says, yes, it's already done. Truth has been spoken here. And we just let it be. We let it go. And so it is.